Wow.
My name is Abina Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of FOL Justice Forum on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of the Justice Forum, we're going to be looking at search and seizure warrants in Liberia. Search and seizure warrants, the breaking morale in Liberia. We want to talk about that. What are they, and how you go about doing all that? The next thing is the acquittal and release of Councillor Gloria Musu's card and her family members. The Supreme Court has overturned the verdict and say go home because we can't keep you anymore because there was no evidence. The evidence that was found convicting you, we don't think it was strong enough to keep you in jail. So we're going to talk about what actually happened, what was done, and what the Supreme Court, why do they think that way? We're going to talk about that. So we want to welcome Councillor Frederick A.B. Jewett, that's FOL Legal Analyst. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here. Interesting thing happening in Liberia.
Very, very interesting. Let me welcome Attorney Wonderr Konyeneh Freeman. He's an attorney, he's an economist, and also a financial crime specialist. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Let me also welcome Sergeant Alfred Johnson, all the way from Barnes Bay Oldfield. Welcome, Sergeant.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate the opportunity.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. We want to discuss these legal issues. You can go anywhere and talk about the politics of it, but we first want to understand the legal part of it. What happened? The first thing here is our search and seizure warrants. And things have happened. We are not talking, out of the blue. So search and seizure warrants, you heard that around the CDC headquarters. Also, there was a leaked document that they were trying to search President Weah's house. And so let me, we're in court now. So we'll call on Councillor Jewett to give the briefing on search and seizure warrants. What's happening in Monrovia? Why are we talking about this?
So the information I got and I read from the Liberian Daily paper, front page, and others had to do with the LDEA getting a tip off some information that behind the CDC headquarters, I think they call it small town.
Yeah, small town.
In small town, it is alleged and considered that massive drug expansion, distribution, and sale has been happening there. So the DEA decided to, I think like 4 a.m. in the morning, conduct a search and seizure. And my understanding is that they went to West Point Magisterial Court and got a warrant, a search and seizure warrant. And that the warrant itself was prepared by the assistant clerk of court, signed by him, and I think the magisterial police officer attached to the court joined the DEA officers and went on to do a search and seizure behind, I think 2 a.m. in the morning, 2 a.m. I mean 4 a.m. or 4:35 a.m. in the morning. They went to search the small town, and it is alleged that some of the drug dealers ran into the compound of CDC, and the whole thing ran into, I understand, DEA officer pulling out from the place because they were attacked as they complained. That's what they alleged. And then the issue resulted into crowds gathering at CDC hospital compound, and the stone was thrown from place to place. I think the speaker came there, tried to see how he could quiet the whole situation. Akara Gray, former Representative Gray, also went there, and some other top CDC officials. But the thing continued until no one was able to work on that particular day. And if you watch some of the video, there were racks, a lot of racks all on the street. I understand there was some vehicle damage, some people got hurt, people who were not involved in what went on. And so at the end of the day, there was a question as to whether the search and seizure the raid that was issued. Some people say the raid was stolen. In fact, I think there's an investigation going on now. The assistant clerk said the raid was stolen by the LDA officer from his desk. I don't know how that can happen. And so up to this point, I think the chief justice, after hearing that, went ahead and ordered the assistant clerk and the magisterial police into the Manila Central Prison. I think they slept at night, maybe a day or two there, before she ordered Judge Roosevelt Willie to go ahead and conduct an investigation as to what happened.
Thank you. Sergeant Johnson, any further briefing on this issue?
Well, as the councilor just said, it's along the same line. But what I understand is that because when this thing happened, I did speak with a few individuals who are directly involved with the situation, and they advised that they issued about the rate. They believe they operated on the assumption that whatever document they were being given was approved by the court. But what they found out that first of all, the West Point court did not have jurisdiction over the location where the warrant was being served. That's the first thing. And secondly, if they needed, there's this tendency in Liberia, according to the guy, for people to go to courts that are favorable to them and get warrants and things like that to build a survey in other locations. So that has been a practice of LDA officers. And so that's what they did with the West Point situation. From what I've gathered, the West Point court does not have jurisdiction over where the warrant was being served. So you have to take it to the court of competent jurisdiction for that area to serve it. So they did that, and they went ahead and went to serve the warrant, and problem happened. But from my perspective as a professional, criminal justice professional, the issue is the manner in which they got the warrant is, I think from that end, it was a procedure, not even procedure issue. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And we'll come to that. Let me bring in Atty. Freeman. Atty. Freeman, just talk to me and our viewers about when it says search and seizure warrants. What are they talking about here? And what's the procedure?
Well, normally under the circumstances when investigators, and that would be the police or other law enforcement agencies, they have a reasonable belief that maybe instruments of crime or proceeds of crime or whatever is in a specific location, and if they believe that if they go and search that location, they will see those items there, they can quietly go to the court. Normally, there is a bit of a hush-hush around seizure warrants, because obviously you don't want the information disclosed and then the people who's supposed to be searched could get tipped off and they could relocate the item that you are trying to seize to use for maybe your criminal prosecution. So there's a bit of a hush hush around it. But you have to be much more specific when you go before the judge and asking for a warrant to search. You have to be specific. What are you looking for? Where do you want to look? And so you have to be a little more specific. The judge is not going to grant you a warrant if you are not specific, if you are vague and it's not sure. So, and often it will be specific to where you say you want to go look. So you cannot get a seizure warrant and then you go beyond the scope of what is written on the face of the warrant. So there is a kind of limitation when you ask for a warrant, because at the time that you're asking for it, you're supposed to tell the judge specifically where you want to look, and it doesn't authorize you to go and all over the place looking for everything from every location.
You are muted, Dennis.
In your search, let's say you are searching for a laptop and you see somebody running away with a laptop, you can pursue them, right? Wherever they go.
Is that question for me?
Any one of you, please.
So let's there's something called first pursuit or hot pursuit of there's a variation of it. If you are going to execute a search warrant and you see somebody leaving the scene with evidence, you have the ability to arrest them, stop them and detain them to be able to collect the evidence, because that's probably what you're going for. You have the ability to do that. But the problem here is, in as much as there's a restriction with fresh pursuit, even though you have fresh pursuit, you can be chasing somebody, like in the case of the claim that the guys ran into CDC headquarters. You can do fresh pursuit based on, to some extent, the cooperation of the people in the place. If the people stop you from entering a house, you cannot just batch into their house like that. I mean, from what I understand. Now, what you can do though is, at that point now, you can set up a perimeter around our house. So since you guys don't want to, what we do here is very simple. Since this person ran into your house and you don't want us to go in, you don't want to cooperate with us, that's fine. We will shut down this house, put officers around it, go and apply for a warrant from the court, type of a warrant, and everything. Go and send an application to the court and conduct a search of that house for that person. So you have the ability to shut that house down, because now a critical piece of evidence is in that house that you need. But the people are stopping you from going to that house. And to cover yourself and to make your case airtight so that the evidence collected cannot be challenged in court, what we'll do is, like I said, we'll shut the house down, go to the job, apply for a search warrant, residential search warrant, go to the court grant us the residential search warrant, and we come and execute that search warrant. But until we can execute that search warrant, at that time, our whole house is on lockdown. Nobody's going in and nobody's coming out. If you want to be inconvenient like that, go ahead.
Thank you. Let me go back to you, Councillor. Joey, Anthony Jensen, you wanted to chime in?
Yeah, the issue of hot pursuit is not often associated with search warrant, because search warrant is an organized thing that you are doing. So the idea that you will be doing a search warrant and at the same time in hot pursuit is not synonymous. Hot pursuit is something that is, I don't know, what's impromptu, okay? That wasn't planned and arranged. So the chances are for you to be implementing a search warrant and at the same time being in hot pursuit, normally they don't go together.
They normally don't go together, but there are some instances where they have happened. I agree with you that generally speaking, that's not something that happens. And the reason why a hot pursuit will happen in the case of executing a search warrant, if that even happens, that means the entire warrant execution team has blundered. Because
exactly.
When you are executing a residential search warrant, if you have an airtight team, if you organize it in a way that's the way it's supposed to be organized, you will not have people running out of the house. And if they run, you will get them right there, because you already have a perimeter.
Exactly.
You have perimeter officers. So by the time that person jumps out of the window, somebody's standing out of the window with a light in their eyes. So for somebody to run while you're executing a search warrant, that says the entire organization of the process was flawed.
Councillor Joel, what is the process? Because we heard about jurisdiction, and we'll come to the Supreme Court, their intervention. But in a search warrant, you're supposed to do it in talk about jurisdiction and who's supposed to grant it, who's supposed to apply for it. My understanding is you apply to the Justice Ministry, you ask the Justice Ministry, and the Justice Ministry will apply to the court. Tell me the process.
So Liberia, the judicial system in Liberia is divided into jurisdiction. Magistrates have certain area that their authority and service of rate can occur. So take for example the search warrant that was issued for the CD behind the CDC headquarters, small town that ended up in the throwing of rocks here, there, yonder. Couldn't have come from West Point because Monrovia City Court has jurisdiction up to what do you call it, Cali Junction. When you cross the road that comes from Cali Junction, on the other side you are into the Painesville Ministerial Court area. So any property or any thing that happening beyond that, crossing that Cali Junction, the Monrovia City Court will not have jurisdiction. Now, there are some exceptions, and I will point out the exceptions, and very rare exception. So, if they raid, for example, from the West Point Ministerial Court, let's say for some reason, the judiciary were having a program, and normally what the chief just said, I think right around criminal code A, B, C, there they always setting up there having some kind of program there, and all the judges, all more court officers, lawyers will be sitting there celebrating the chief justice birthday, for example. And then if no one were in the Monrovia City Court because the judges have gone over to that celebration, and there is a belief that a crime has been committed or a search warrant need to be carried out around the small town behind the CDC headquarters. At that level, the LDEA could go to the nearest court, which is the Western Ministerial Court. But when you get a rate from there, the rate must be endorsed by the magisterial officer of Monrovia City Court. So you can't just come from West Point and then go straight on to small town and begin to conduct your search after you get your rate, your warrant of arrest. You can't do that unless there are circumstances that are normal, that the one I'm explaining. Chief Justice celebrating her birthday and doing regular days, and she invite everybody to that big party where they go and sit around criminal code A, B, I think B, A, B, and A, B, C, right? No, C on the other side, but code A and B. Around there, there's a long corridor. They set a lot of chairs there. That was happening. And you think the search should go on in order to not lose the probability of finding it. Then you could go to the nearest magisterial court. The nearest will be where you call it Western Magisterial Court. But it doesn't really happen like that. Even if you did that, you must have the magisterial officer to endorse it. In other words, agreeing that in order at this rate, the court, Monrovia City Court, has also endorsed it so it can go out. But what the problem is that, and what the LDA and many of the police officers don't do, is that at all of the magisterial courts, the government of Liberia has some lawyers called city solicitors. So that city solicitor will either be a counselor at law, an attorney at law, working for the Ministry of Justice, assigned to each of the courts. So from outside, the LDA by itself cannot just go to the court and go to the clerk and start asking for search warrant to be issued. There has to be the attempt to be searched for has to be very much laid out, succinct and clear. It has to be upon oath. So you go to the Ministry of Justice, as you said, the city solicitor should be able to say, read what the complaint is, and then decides, okay, I think a search warrant will be necessary in this situation. So it is the city solicitor attached to a magisterial court who goes to the magistrate and say, Your Honor, we have a request for such warrant. The judge will review the request, and then the judge will issue an order to the clerk to issue the search warrant. So it's not a clerk issuing a search warrant and the magistrate officer picking it up to go. From my understanding, that's what happened in West Point. So if the city solicitor is not involved, if the judge did not give an order, sometimes what the judge does is that he actually just sign on the bottom of the writ to indicate that he ordered the writ to be issued. In the absence of that, the search and seizure legally, if it was conducted, let's say Atty was seized from small town and taken to West Point, the defense counsel in representing the people from small town could file a motion to suppress the warrant and order that the material be, request that the material be returned to their own ground that the court had no jurisdiction. In this case, I understand the magistrate said he didn't know anything about it. Juma Jala did not know anything about it. That's what he said. And I understand the clerk said that the warrant was prepared, but the LDA people stole it from his desk. That's the investigation that's going on. I have one or two problems though. I can stop. My problem is that the chief justice, after hearing it, and she ordered that the assistant clerk, should be locked up at Monroe Central Prison, and that the magisterial officer should also be locked up. My question is, where did she get the legal authority to do that? The matter must travel legally from the Western Magisterial Court, perhaps to one of the circuit court, because they will have jurisdiction, either code A, code B.
I have questions about that, but we'll come to it. Let me go to Konyeneh, because they're going to seize maybe that drug area, right? So what will precipitate that? How much drug should it be for it to warrant a search and seizure?
Well, I don't think it's a quantity.
Okay.
It is really being able to convince the judge who is presiding that a serious crime is occurring, and that if they search this particular property, they will be able to seize either the instruments of crime, or they will be able to seize fruits of the crime or proceeds of the crime or stuff like that. So it really has no bearing on the quantity, but generally, obviously, it has to be a serious offense, and I guess drugs is a serious offense under Liberian law. But you can see, based on the irregularity of the search warrant, that is politically motivated, and that is the problem I really have with the law enforcement agency in Liberia, is that they act way too politically, instead of legally. Okay, and some of these things are not necessarily, because if you look at the drug problem in Liberia, it's overwhelming. It's all over everywhere. So, to say you are in a hurry to do it right is not, in my mind, it doesn't justify the excuse, because the drug problem is really overwhelming. So it doesn't get more urgent because it's right behind CDC headquarters, so that it becomes so urgent. Yeah, so for me, there's no real limit, but it has to be a sufficient serious crime for the judge to consider it.
Dennis, if I may come in?
Yes, and because I'm, just to add, because if it is drug, can you go and seize some marijuana that in somebody's pocket? So so continue. What should the threshold be before a search warrant is
That
warranted?
is for the judge.
Okay.
That is for the judge to decide. And if the judge decides that this is not seriously or is not sufficient, then, well, you're out of luck, or you might maybe request higher authorities at Ministry of Justice to come in, because I will assume that there will be local officers trying to enforce that. But clearly, it all boils down to the discretion of the judge. The judge exercises his discretion to issue or to deny the issuance of a warrant. But generally, the judges will comply as long as you make a reasonable case to them. Generally, they will oblige.
Thank you, Alfred.
Yes. So I would like to, I don't know if a slight disagreement or just to give much perspective to what Anthony Freeman said. The judge's influence on the process has to do with, in my experience writing search warrant as a detective, when I was a detective, the judge's influence on the process has to do with the content of the application, the probable cause, whether he have enough probable cause to agree to that, whether there's enough evidence to suggest that they're fruit of the crime. But the size of the evidence being sought does not matter. I've had detective road search warrant for 10 cents. For 10 cents, yeah, they wrote a search warrant for 10 cents because they feel like it was critical to their case and it was in a person's house, and they wrote the search warrant to be able to locate that 10 cents in the house. So go and search for the 10 cents in the house. So you can write a search warrant for anything if you feel it is a key evidence to your case. So the size does not matter. It's just the fact that you should have probable cause enough. The judge must have you must have probable cause, and you must convince the judge that you have enough evidence. But just to go back to the warrant process as it relates to LDA, Councillor Jewett said something about the court being at the, I mean the officer, the lawyer being at the courthouse to be able to read a warrant. So on our end here, what we do is very simple, and this is why I told the LDA boss, I said, listen, I know we want to say Liberia is different from America, Liberia is much more behind and things like that, but no, because when he explained the process to me and what Councillor Jewett said, I said, but that's pretty much the same thing we do here. It's just that on the flip side, before we even send a warrant to the judge, we have to send it to the ASA, the Assistant State Attorney here, to read to see if we have enough probable cause. So, especially residential search warrant, you have to understand that's one of the ultimate invasion of privacy. So, in order for that to be approved by a judge, it has to be scrutinized. And it seems like LDA does not have a process in place to do that. For us, I have to read the warrant, send it to my immediate supervisor. Immediate supervisor reads it, approves it, send it to the sergeant. The sergeant reads it, approves it, send it to the lieutenant. The lieutenant reads it, approves it, send it to the major. The captain. The captain reads it, approves it, sends it to the major. If the major agrees, then they send it back to me. Then I will take that warrant, I send it to the ASC, the Assistant State Attorney. That Assistant State Attorney will read the warrant for legal satisfaction. If it meets the legal, if he feels like, oh yeah, you have probable cause, cool. If you don't, you will send it back, say tweak this language, so that the judge can be able to give you the warrant or give you agree with the warrant. Once he or she agrees, it sends it back to me. And then I have to put their name on the paper and send it now to the judge for the judge to approve, to send the application to the judge. Once the judge approves it, that's not done. I have to go to our special operation division that will serve the warrant on my behalf. When I'm actually say serve the warrant, but I will break into the house on my behalf. It's a whole coordinated process. And to have LDA going to execute a warrant where people running away means that the process was not organized. It was not organized. And if the fact that you have a warrant that was obtained under seemingly fraudulent circumstances, you can understand why there was an uproar from the CDC people, because if the entire basis for the warrant is wrong, it gives people the impression that it is politically motivated. But to go back to the question, it doesn't matter the size of the evidence. It's just that you have probable cause. Your probable cause should be enough to say, yes, you have enough to enter the house and get this marijuana, get the gun, or get this a knife.
Do we know exactly what this warrant says, or we're not supposed to know?
You can know what the warrant says.
You mean what it says? What the warrant says?
No, I'm sorry. If you have to know what the warrant says, like the warrant, if the information is public, but sometimes they can seal the warrant. I don't know if in this case they seal their warrant, because we have not seen a copy of this warrant. I talked to the guy. He said they cannot issue a copy because there's some information, investigative information, that will be exposed. I said, but then you could have asked. I don't know if the doing Liberia Councilor Jewett or Anthony Freeman can educate me on that. I don't know if you have the ability to ask for the judge to seal the warrant from the public. So they become.
So I mean, legally, the LDA does not have anything to seal. What they have in hand calling warrant, it's not a warrant.
It's not. Yep.
It's not. And you know, I think it was Spoon Talk I listened to. I listened to Spoon Talk when the LDA boss came and presented the picture as if this was nothing. You know, he said, next time when we're trying to serve our warrant, you know, we try to check out, dot our T's, cross our R's, and whatever it is. But this is a major matter. This is a matter that caused people to be injured when they were driving to town, coming to work. This is a matter where people's vehicles were damaged. This is a matter that there could have been a shootout, a CDC arm. I don't know whether they have arm or not, but people who support CDC could have also used arm, and then there would be a fight in the open over there. And you come out and say that, yeah, we got it from West Point, but you know, we thought it was genuine. That, look, in Liberia, that Sergeant Johnson, what he just said doesn't exist in Liberia. There is no coordination. So when somebody wants to, I understand. In addition to this search warrant, there is another search warrant that the information came out that they want to search. They wanted to search
Judge,
President
we have.
Weah's home.
Yep.
I think that also alarmed the Chief Justice, and she began to act. But how did the searching President Weah home come to the public? It means somebody is compromising the whole process. Was they going to search President Weah home? Why were they leaving Monroe City Court to go to West Point to go get a raid? And is it true that Judge Magistrate Joma Jala did not participate? Where was he? Was he not in court? What happened to the solicitor solicitor? So all of the processes you were talking about, Sergeant Johnson, one officer can get up from the police station and think that a search warrant needs to be served and go to the magisterial court. And if they find that the magisterial court may not honor their request, they will go to judge. You have a Judge Tama, JP Tama. You have a JP. I don't know what he's still alive, but JP Tama used to be another guy called Justice Solomon something. He was on Central Street between some old houses. Those guys will go there and get an order.
Wow. And
go and search. There is no consistency. So you as the officer who think that the search should be issued, and you went through all of the coordination and process you're talking about. No, it doesn't happen in Liberia. And surprisingly, the Minister of Justice will come to court and say, we never heard about this. The Secretary Solicitor in West Point said that I didn't know about it. Wow. So how did they get it? How did they get it? Who prayed for it? Because in Liberia, a criminal complaint is a Republic of Liberia plaintiff versus the defendant. So not DA versus small town. That's not what it is. It's the Republic of Liberia, meaning that you will find all possibility to find those lawyers who are working for the Ministry of Justice to assist you to issue the warrant. Why did they issue a warrant? Was it political? If it were not political, why is the DA boss making it to look like it's something not important? That they made mistake, that they will correct themselves. I hope President President Boakai will kick him out of that place. Because up to this point, why is the guy talking about, it happens and we will fix it? Really?
And I don't know, Dennis, I'm also concerned that upon the search, it doesn't appear like they found any drugs.
No, they didn't.
I'm surprised that
they didn't search it because when they went there, the resistance they met, they left.
But they said they didn't go to CDC headquarters directly, right? They went to another location first.
Yes, so they went to a location to search. The resistance they received at that location made them to leave. But then word came out that the LDA or the government went to do search warrant around CDC headquarters, and it turned into this big political situation, and that's how it spread across the CDC.
But that is a serious problem, because if you are going to search for drugs, it beats my imagination that a civilian force will overpower the police on a search warrant for drugs that you are going to search for around 2-3 a.m. in the morning.
No,
Councilor, the police was not present.
Okay, whichever group was. Yeah, what I'm saying, even if because the LDA is like a police too, in a sense, they are also law enforcement, right? That's what I meant. I didn't really mean police versus LDA. You are implementing a search warrant in the early hours of the morning, searching for drugs. Are you telling me that a civilian force was sufficient to overpower you for you to retreat?
Honestly, let me add something. I understand that since Abraham Kroma and Fadika. What is that other one? Hassan Fadika.
Fadika, yeah, that's him.
Okay, the one who is a policeman.
Yeah.
Meant to have shot themselves at the LDA office. It is reported that the government has ordered that no LDA officer carry gun. So
including when implementing search warrants?
Yeah, they said no LDA officer carry gun. They're going to people pay 4:30 in the morning and say that they were not carrying gun. And so they told them, they ran away from them.
And you see the point I was trying to make, and that's because even if you don't carry, let's agree that LDA was not allowed to carry gun. You have to coordinate with LMP. LMP has the ERU or the EFP team or something like that. Correct. That group. So for us here, we have our Special Operation Division. They are the ones who break the door down. They are the ones, the SOD break the door down, do all they are going in the house, they break the door down, bring everybody out of the house, put them somewhere in the living room. Then after they clear the house, then the house is rendered secure. Then we now the detectives go in the house to explain to the people what we have. This is the search warrant, or we take picture of the house, do our coordinated search and everything, conduct everything, gather whatever evidence we want to gather. We give them an itemized description, everything description of what we took into the house. And while we are in the house, outside the perimeter, we have patrol officers at the perimeter guarding the house. That nobody going into that house
Yes,
because that house is under police control. LDEA and I talked to the boss. I said, first and foremost, when you are serving this thing, you go to if you want to do this thing, JFK, your staging area. You stage to JFK. You do all the low work. You get a house, the description and everything. LMP ERU supposed to be the one to go and break the house down, break the door down, enter the house, secure everybody in the house. Once you secure everybody in the house, then LDA come in and tell the people, here, we have a search warrant. This is a copy of the search warrant. This is what we're looking for, and blah, blah, blah. Do your search, take the pictures and everything, and then leave. While you are in the house, you need to have uniformed police officers around that place, setting up, have a perimeter set up that nobody can go there until your search warrant has been executed. To be overcome by civilians,
So FDA in this case applied for the search warrant and he executing it, breaking it, and he's doing everything.
They ran away from that.
Yeah, because the problem there is, Dennis, if they are not authorized to move with guns, then they are not in a position to implement a search warrant around 2 a.m. in the morning. Because if you are going to pursue drugs, I mean, think about drugs. These are dangerous people. They're always with arms. So to tell me that you're going to go and enforce a search warrant 2 a.m. in the morning without sufficient backup, without sufficient force to what the police guy said, secure the perimeter of the place. I mean, it's bonkers.
But you know what it proves though. What it proves is when you are operating, and it happens to officers. When the foundation for your actions is not right, your confidence lacks. You lack confidence to be able to enforce it. So it tells me that they knew the warrant they were serving was not right. So once they met that resistance, they decided to leave. But because you knew what you.
You know what I heard?
I'm sorry, Councilor. Go ahead.
Somebody is trying. The report on Falika and Ibi Kuma is done. We are person.
Waka.
I say on your text. Somebody is trying to find way that he can stay, that he can be formalized, and the two guys who the investigator will be out of assigned somewhere.
Yeah.
What they did make no sense. It endangered the very Wakai government. Why the business of going to people pay 4 a.m. in the morning, and you say you're not armed? You expect them to allow you to go in? All the people there were to make sufficient noise, and the place became filled immediately. And why they did not, as you said, Sergeant, why they did not contact the police? What is the business of trying to think that you are much more powerful than the police? You're just a little branch of the security forces. Why didn't you contact the Minister of Justice? What is the coordination here?
So let's go to the Supreme Court.
No, real quickly, what I understand when it comes to what the councilor said about the police, from what I understand, the 100 was out of the country. Chief Como was out of the country, so they contacted, I think, the operation guy, and he was indecisive about what to do because, again, the operation guy has a history with CDC. He has a history with CDC, so he was indecisive what to do, whether the police should join the operation or not. It should have been a joint LDA and LMP operation, and possibly Monrovia City Police was supposed to be involved in that too because it's within their jurisdiction. They could have been involved in that. It's going to be a total joint operation. But LMP was dragging their feet because of the history of LMP with CDC. So that's why LDA decided that they were going to go on this alone. That's what happened. So, I don't want to. Yes, he's the leader. I don't want to squarely blame him because from the conversation I've had, I realized that there is a breakdown in the process. And so when I talked to them, I said, listen, you guys, when it comes to these kind of things, search warrant, residential search warrant, and the lawyers here can agree, it's one of the most ultimate evasion of privacy. So you have to do it right. You have to make sure that everything is done right, because when you break into people's houses, it's not the most convenient thing. 4 o'clock in the morning, it's not, and it's right time. Serving the warrant 4 o'clock in the morning is right time. But that's what we do. We search our warrant 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, take people by surprise. So the element of surprise is necessary. However, the manner in which they carry it out was wrong, and I hope they can be able to learn from that.
So who brought the matter to the Supreme Court?
Who brought the matter to the Supreme Court?
Or they saw there was a judicial misconduct, that's why they intervened.
Supreme Court jumping there, I guess.
You know, I would say that I have always thought this Chief Justice have irregular function. It's a bad thing to say, but I think this is the right thing. I remember there was one time at the airport, a security guard who, I think Mrs. Selly was still in power. And Mrs. Selly then had instructed the airport that certain bathroom was supposed to be used by only the president and I think her guests. And she was Associate Justice at the time, was at the airport and wanted to use a bathroom, and the security officer who was there said that, I can't allow you to enter here because the president, my bosses told me that nobody else except the president and her guests. To make long matter short, the Supreme Court at the time, headed by Chief Justice Francis Kokpo, decided this poor man and railroaded him in the Supreme Court and sent him to jail. It was based upon her complaint. Whatsoever the complaint was, and I'm proud of that, is that every lawyer who appeared in our court to defend the poor man were begging the Supreme Court, don't send him to jail. Even though this man had an instruction from the chief of security at the airport, which were confirmed. In this case, I understand they said the Chief Justice heard that the warrant, there is also a warrant for President Weah to search his home, and that when she got very furious when you heard that the writ was issued from West Palm Magistrate Court, and that there was no jurisdiction. She immediately ordered the court administrator to order the judge to grab the assistant clerk and the magistrate officer who went along for the execution to lock them at Monrovia Central Prison. Thereafter, she ordered Judge Roosevelt Willie to investigate this matter. My question is, where is the Chief Justice finding this legal sympathy to do this? The matter has to travel. If it is, let's agree, the warrant was issued from the West Palm Magistrate Court, no jurisdiction existed. Does it get to the Supreme Court? No, it has to come by way. Maybe the small town people will file what they call a summary proceeding against a magistrate in West Point. Everybody will come to criminal court A, B, or C to say what happened. If they disagree, then they might even seek the justice in chamber to see for review. If that doesn't happen, if there is an appeal taken from whatever it is, then it gets to the Supreme Court. How can the Chief Justice can order people lock up?
Right.
How come?
Maybe Anthony Freeman will know. Freeman, how did the case travel to the Supreme Court?
No.
Well, it's almost like the same way where we said the judiciary. I just want to make a quick point. You remember we said the judiciary compliance with the asset verification was 10% or something like that? 20%.
They said 20%.
No, overall was 20%. But the judiciary in particular was 10%.
You're right.
Yes. So they don't have a culture of going by the rule of law. Because just like Councillor Chewe has said, I mean, even if there were a complaint, the complaint process has to go through and you are at the very last stage. And also, too, if there was a misconduct by a judicial officer or a judge, they have the Judiciary Inquiry Commission, I think. Judicial Inquiry Commission. That's where a complaint is filed, and they are given an opportunity to defend themselves before a judgment is passed. That is Liberian law. And whether you are in the judiciary or you are in the executive or the legislature, everybody is entitled to due process. So the idea that you can jail prior to investigation is alien to due process. But I mean, Liberia is a place,
No,
this just happened.
Look,
something is not right. I mean,
let me just add
Maybe
another
maybe it was
thing.
a criminal. Maybe they had evidence to lock him up.
There is no way it can work that way.
No.
It can't work that way, because if it's a judge, the judge was acting under an apparent authority.
Yes.
They were acting under an apparent authority. So it means you are acting with some cloak of judicial authority. So there has to be a complaint, and that complaint has to be investigated, and the chief justice is at the tail end of any investigation. So she is far removed.
Too far.
If she wanted to act, she can only act through probably instruction from lower level officer, and the lower level officer will act, but she in particular cannot issue such an instruction. That is illegal and unlawful. But I mean, like we said, we're talking about Liberia now. It's a kind of dysfunctional state.
What interests me is that did the Supreme Court issue a writ of arrest? No.
I don't know.
They just call from place to place, talk telephone call from place to place. Can they just call people to lock up people and that happens? Look,
that's why you see.
One time when Civil Law Court opened, they had, I think she instructed that all of the court officers should dress very nicely to come to court. I know the local judge did that. But when in Civil Law Court, the woman went with copy book and pencil to each of the court officer. Write a return. In the court, in open court. Read what it means by return. And she dressed them from up down. Those poor people were made shame and belittled. You are not educated. Why are you doing the system? You're supposed to be out of the system. I just said to myself, you need to be out of the system. Because why would you talk to these people who forever they have been working in the court system? The judiciary had done nothing for them to send them to school, pay their school fees. You come down, you just dress and begin to belittle them? What is this?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is FOL Justice Forum, and we are discussing the search and seizure warrants. And let's talk a little bit, for 1 minute each on the alleged search warrant also for President Weah's house. Right? I don't know if that's true, or it was a leaked document or it false. Do you have any further information, and what will precipitate that?
So let me tell you what I heard, and I think I understand former Chief Justice Francis Kokbo is one of the lawyers that went to pray for a search warrant for President Weah's house. And I think two other lawyers, I don't remember the name, but it is said that either the Minister of Justice granted them letter patent, which is like an authority to be able to, work with the government to prosecute certain cases, and that they have gone to, I think, Monrovia City Court, and I think they have obtained a search warrant, and it leaked. My question is, how? It doesn't mean counsel, what you call it, he's not counsel of Kokbo. It doesn't mean counsel of Kokbo cannot represent anybody. But you go inside President Weah's house and the information all over Broad Street. Was there a raid? Was there a raid? And then got to a Chief Justice lock up two people from West Point. and mind you, they freed them. After 2 days, they freed them. They just let them go. And Judge Willie is investigating. The poor clerk is so scared that he said they stole the raid from his tax. What is the process in Liberia? Is this a law now? I when Councilor, I don't know why you knew here now, when Councilor Mafali, Flagger Aaron Mafali was alive, he will file an impeachment procedure against the Chief Justice. Because this is a complete abuse of the system.
So what I think about it, firstly, let me say that President Weah's house is not immune from the laws of Liberia. The laws of Liberia extend over 43,000 square miles. So if Weah's house is within that 43,000 square miles, it's not immune. Okay, having said that, he is a former president. So I would suppose before a judge grants such a warrant, they have to really very seriously consider the allegations or the assertions in the prayer for the warrant. So it is not something people can do on a whim. But I wouldn't be surprised because I learned it's coming from the, I think, asset verification, how they call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read.
That's why some of us oppose that Clark Martin going there in the first instance, not because we have anything personal against him, but because such a vital committee, you can't put somebody who has vendetta, who has an axe to grind with the previous regime. That person has to be both neutral in fact and neutral in perception. So if you put such a person there, they're just going to be looking for an opportunity to pay back or to settle scores. So that's what I see. But let us separate that from the fact that if President Weah is a citizen of Liberia, he's subject to the laws of Liberia. If his house is within the 43,000 square miles of Liberia, that house is subject to the laws of Liberia. Any day that they believe that crime occurred in that house or at that house and evidence is there, a search warrant can be issued on that house and it can be searched.
Thank you. That takes us to our next issue, and that is with Councillor Gloria Musu Scott. Konyeneh, provide a briefing.
Well, this is a case, I didn't quite follow it keenly when it was at the Supreme Court, but I did follow it at the lower level. And I had significant doubts when they found her guilty. In fact, I was shocked because I was following the case very regularly, and it didn't appear to me that the bar of reasonable doubt has been overcome. I feel there was issues with whether or not the horse was exposed and whether or not people who have entered, the government presented one evidence, there were contrary evidence. There were issues with whether or not there was male DNA present. The government presented one evidence, there were contrary evidence. So it was, in my mind, a mix. Now, what happened was the state was or did achieve the purpose of proving murder by inference or by circumstantial evidence that, okay, well, we think it's very difficult for anybody else to have been in the place, so it means they were there. So if they were there, then they got to be the murderers. The problem with that is the punishment for murder is so severe, and when you have those kind of circumstances, the threshold for evidence is also very high. So it is difficult to get a court to approve a conviction where the circumstantial evidence doesn't exclude all other theory, because every time a crime occurs, there is an underlying theory. So if you're going to go by circumstantial evidence, as the state tried to do, you have to exclude all other possible theory. Otherwise, you will need to convict directly. And I think that's why they found at the Supreme Court that eventually the threshold of reasonable doubt was not surpassed. And there were doubtful circumstances regarding the evidence, regarding the presence of male in the house, regarding the entry in the house. There were a lot of reasonable doubt, and the court decided they can sustain a conviction when there is a reasonable doubt, and the defense doesn't have to prove anything. I mean, they could go there and prove they're innocent, that would be good. They could go there and prove that somebody else did it, that would be good, but they don't have to do that. They just have to raise a reasonable doubt that this thing you're saying it doesn't hold water, because this could have happened, that could have happened, and any reasonable person can conclude that it's not conclusive. And if you're going to prove murder, you have to be conclusive. So that's how I see it.
So Sergeant Johnson, I know we were here before discussing the case. Some time ago when it was in court, even before the Supreme Court. Today, they say the decision They say the Supreme Court of Liberia has acquitted former Chief Justice Gloria Musu and her co-defendants of all charges, including murder and criminal conspiracy. The decision was handed down by Chief Justice, Councillor Jewel's best friend, CA you on Wednesday, who determined that the prosecution failed to meet the burden of proof required for a conviction. And there's a quote: the state did not meet the burden of proof to warrant the conviction of the defendant. Therefore, the defendants are hereby acquitted of the crimes of murder, criminal conspiracy, and all, as charged in the indictment. And that's how she declared.
So let me
Sergeant, because we talked about this before, do you feel vindicated by what you said before?
No, I feel vindicated one way, and I also in so many ways than one I feel vindicated because there are a few things I want to establish here. Number one, I still maintain that based on the evidence that I've seen, there was no intruder in our house. I still maintain that there was no intruder in our house. I also maintain that based on what I've seen, based on the transcript, this is the transcript I have of the
trial.
The trial. I have the trial transcript here. Based on my reading of the transcript and everything, Jefferson Koji and Valley Teller had nothing to do with that. Based on the evidence we've seen, they had nothing to do with what happened at the council house. With that, I'm sorry.
Can you raise your voice a little bit?
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, I said big. Are you getting me now, Councilor?
Yeah.
So I said two things. Based on what I've seen so far, I do not believe that there was an intruder in our house. I believe that whoever killed Gloria Musu had right to be in our house. I do not believe there was any intruder in our house. Everything I've seen points to the fact that the murder of Gloria Musu had all right to be in our house. There was no intruder. Number two, I do not believe that Jefferson Koji or Valley Teller, based on the evidence presented, were anywhere near that house or had anything to do with what happened. With that said, I would like to go to what Anthony Freeman just said when it comes to excluding all possibilities. As investigators, when we have a case,
theory,
all theories, all possible theories. When we have a case, you take all the possible explanation and throw it on the wall. You write it on the wall. Take all the possible explanation. It could be family member. It could be an accident. It could be somebody else, boyfriend, girlfriend. Every possibility we stick it on the wall. And we start, based on the investigation and the evidence, we start to eliminate possibilities. We start to eliminate possibilities and come down to one possibility and then work around that based on what the evidence has presented. Why am I saying this? There were two key evidence that was not dealt with. And when I read the transcript of the case, I said, yeah, they convicted her for murder. But when I appear on multiple platforms, including Prime FM, I told them, I said, when they go to the Supreme Court, she will be found. The case will be thrown out from the Supreme Court. And I said that. And the reason is very simple. Number one, the DNA evidence. You see, when we hear, one thing I've always said about LMP officers is the way they handle the scene is very, very careless. We saw it with the Albert Peter and Gifty Lama, where officers jumped in the front seat of the car and started driving it. We don't do that yet. We don't do that yet. You can't do that yet. You take that car, you impound that car, you destroy evidence right there. So for a pathologist or whoever it is to see DNA evidence, male DNA evidence, and just discard it, I'm surprised that he still has a job, or that he's not being charged for evidence tampering or something like that. You can't discard that because the lawyers here can agree that's possible exculpatory evidence. What you have to do is, what they can do, you can present that evidence, and LMP had a way of explaining away that evidence. How? There were so many milk that came in contact with Charlotte's body. I was talking that the community members that entered the house, they handled her body, according to the trial transcript. Eric Odumagwan, he's also a community member. He carried her body. Johnson, who also put Charlotte on his back to tell her in the car. The pastor, Ivan Gezer, Charlotte was in his car. At the Soul Clinic Hospital, she was handled by a male. At Redemption, the guy at the hospital, what's his name? I just forgot his name. I had the name written down here. I think Moduba Kamara or something. He handled Charlotte's body. So that could explain. There's a way you can explain away the male DNA being on her finger. You can explain that, but you did not address that because the pathologist whoever decided to discard that evidence. The second thing the prosecution did not do and LMP did not do was to provide sufficient evidence to debunk the theory of an intruder. There was enough reason to debunk the theory of an intruder because when you look at all the evidence, first of all, Councilor Scott was the one that handed all the doors were locked. When the security guard guys, the Councilor Scott was the one that handed the keys to the security guard for them to open the door. To enter the house, they had to pry open a window. Everybody that was on that scene said the house was fully secured. That's the first thing. Number two, in the video, Councilor Scott said when she came face to face with the suspect, she pepper sprayed the suspect. She looked in the suspect's eye and pepper sprayed him in his eyes. And when you look at the scene from from picture of the scene, there was no indication of somebody being pepper sprayed and escaping. Charlotte was stabbed in her arm. If you notice under the arm here, there is a major artery under the arm. When they cut you under the arm, I have been on a scene where a little girl got stabbed under the arm one time. And when she was walking to me, she was already a dead person walking. By the time I called the medical guys, when they put her in ambulance, she was dead. There's a major artery on this, and when you call it, you're dead. The blood flow, the blood here is when the blood starts whistling, it's done. So if Charlotte was stabbed on the arm, there was a lot of blood. And she was stabbed 9 times in the back, 2 times in the thigh. She was stabbed between 9 to 11 times. That's a lot of blood for somebody who got pepper spray. I have been pepper spray, and some of you here have had pepper going in your eye. For somebody who had been pepper spray, escaping from a house that they know nothing about, just committed such heinous crime with all that blood. If they are leaving the house, they will struggle to leave the house, even if they make a good break. There was no indication of that. The house was locked. Security were all over. So you could have debunked the intruder argument, but it did not do any of that. So when it went to I told Kevin Deming of From FM, I told the public, I said this case will be overturned because of the way it was handled, and for sure it was. And this is why we keep saying when you get on the scene of these things, you have to be able to process the scene accordingly because you have to think for not just the immediate, for the long term, how it's going to be handled at trial. Because the thing does not start and stop at your house when you arrest the person. The trial has to happen. The evidence will be suppressed. Evidence will be challenged in court. And if you don't process your scene appropriately, they might not even go to trial with the case because they say your evidence collected was not consistent with the rules of evidence. So that's my point.
Councilor Joey, you work in this justice system for a long time in Liberia.
You know,
what's your take?
For disclosure, I know Councilor Scott very well. I work with her. In fact, she is one person that we have on our board at our office. If you go back to the starting of the entire case, prior to the alleged murder in her house, there were 2 occurrences. One of the occurrences led to her car being broken into, laptop and other files that she had were taken. And she reported to the police. And I think she even did a letter to Minister Musa Din, which I'm greatly disappointed. I think this is a guy that God would pay him for what he has done. And what they said was they asked her to hire some private security guard. And then I think her cousin, that was also in the yard, was placed as head of security in that yard. And then I think an occasion before that, she have invited some outsiders to come to do some handiwork into her house. In fact, I think when the thing started, police arrested somebody who was outside in the Broadway area. 2 to 3 people, I think 3 to 4 people they arrested who did some handiwork job at her house. So the presentation that the house was so secure that nobody could enter in, that's a theory that is, to me, a fallacy. The 2 occasions that happened, the police provided her no security. They actually provide her own security. The handymen that they arrested, what they did with the handymen who all were there, how they got out, and the police did nothing about it. If you look, after the quote-unquote murder and the police were still investigating, at the Manila City Hall, Bali Teller who worked there before as deputy director of city police. I don't know what encouraged them to call a press conference. There was a press conference held there. The video is still available. And while the conference going on, Vanny Taylor tries to put his both hands on the table. The press, the chief of press and public relations, remove a hand from the table on 2 occasions. Dragged a hand from the table because they were marks. If you look at that video, you see there were marks all on him. So the question, the theory that people are holding on to is that was Valley Taylor one of those handy men who went to do some work at Gloria Scott's house, and did he leave? The thing we're talking about when somebody pepper spray, he can't leave. That brother has no order. When the thing happened, there were many people that went to the house. So the same person with pepper spray left the house. So much so that nobody was there. There was no police there to protect what happened, and there was nobody there to be able to stop who went in and who came out. But then the murder weapon. Imagine Shallow was stabbed 11 different times all over her body, and you arrested Gloria Scott. Her auntie, the older, I think the woman is 80 years old or 75 years old, and then there's another young girl. They arrested all 4 of them, and you went to trial without the murder weapon. And then during the trial, you say, because we believe the house was locked, nobody could go in, nobody could come out. So we believe these people are the one that did the killing.
Right.
If you watch,
that's the circumstantial evidence we're talking
when
about.
Gloria Scott was in prison, there were people who went to her house and stole TV. The place was not secure. Somebody had keys to the gate that went in. They pretended that they were family members. They were going to protect the place. They went in and stole some things. The second time they saw them taking the BBTV then from the place, they had key to the gate. And on that very night when Shallow was killed, what his name Koji made a call to the quote unquote chief of security in Gloria Sky Yard. Why was he calling the man? He worked for the Liberian government, was a city policeman. No, this guy was a relative of Gloria Scott. He was also compromised. In court, the government was unable to prove the case to the point that my colleague, who just came from jail, United Tuan, visited the court, visited the jury hall around 9:30 to 10 o'clock in the night. Why was he looking for them? If he has so much a case to convict, why were you at the place? He said he went to change the police. Oh, you are the director of police now to go there 9 p.m. to 10 o'clock in the night to change one police to another. And you know, election has consequences. If Mr. Weir had won the election and had another 6 years, Gloria Scott and her family would have stayed in that jailhouse and died. Because Weir would not have released them. Neither would the Supreme Court that you saw ruling today, who have ruled the way they rule.
Councilor, you're making it political.
Councilor, I'm saying when election happens, those who may have been on the other side, like the Lebanese people, when you are in power and you're dealing with Lebanese people, they will respect you.
Yeah, well,
get out of being minister.
That's the political side, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying legally, the facts were so disjointed.
Right.
They proved that they presented, even Councilor Bobby Livingstone said that our case is based upon circumstantial evidence.
Right.
So each of the justices took time to ask him. I think he was the lead lawyer before the Supreme Court. Did you see Gloria Scott, or did you have information to say Gloria Scott took her turn to staff Shallow Musu? No. All of the 4 justices, Justice Wolokoli, all of them asked questions. His answer to it, representing the government, was that we thought we built our case based upon the fact that nobody could enter in the property. It was so secure. So circumstantially, nobody could have killed this girl unless Gloria and the rest of the people out there. The case was so bad, the evidence presented was so wrong, that to the point that if I don't know what would happen, but with the Supreme Court sitting, it just was an easy thing because murder is a very high crime. You can't depend on all. Maybe there could be circumstantial evidence somehow, but this one you needed to be able to prove that the 4 people that were indicted, that you convicted. Look what Judge what his name Roosevelt Willie did. He said, "I sentence you to all of you to life." God, you were just with them. Those people were going to die in that prison. And so the Supreme Court had nothing else to say besides looking at the record, see how empty it was. Right. And the Supreme Court just said, "Look, we're releasing." One thing that I would say as I leave is that justice was done in the face of releasing Gloria and the rest of the people, but Shallow Musu killer are still out there. Killer or killers are still out there.
Councilor, you didn't also bring into because the witnesses, their testimony, and like the phone calls they were making, and that all these things, I don't know, but from what I read, you can actually convict on circumstantial evidence, right? Because they look at Councilor Scott, something happened, you put a woman in your car, you took her to the hospital, and then from the hospital you went to the house of the former Minister Musa Dean. The Justice Minister Musa Dean, and all that stuff, right? The only thing here is we don't know who killed Shallow Musu, and there was the state that's supposed to prove that.
There is a point, Dennis. That's why I said when you have a circumstantial case, you have to exclude other theory.
Correct.
So the evidence is not only that it is circumstantial, but it is circumstantial, and in addition to it being circumstantial, this one was not possible, that one was not possible, this one was not possible, that was not possible. You are trying to exclude reasonable doubt. Because if you don't exclude reasonable doubt, any one of those things that you fail to debunk can raise reasonable doubt and lead to an overturning of the case. And mind you, the case is very reluctant to convict on circumstantial evidence. That is why you must have that, and you must debunk other possible explanation for the crime. But in my mind, the issue about the intrusion was not clear because there were contrary evidence. The issue of the male DNA was also not properly explained. So those circumstances presented alternative theory of what could have happened. So in the face of alternative theory, there exists a reasonable doubt. Mind you, this is a criminal case. It's beyond every reasonable doubt. So it's not enough to say the circumstances is like this. You have to exclude other possible theory that explain it. If you leave it there, it will create reasonable doubt. And the court is not supposed to convict. And once there's a reasonable doubt, the defendant is entitled to an acquittal.
Let me just add.
Let me just come in real quick, Dennis, please.
Sergeant, 1 minute. Let me just add what Sergeant Johnson said. You know the explanation that Sergeant Johnson gave. If after the government, after the controversial evidence that in Shallow's fingernail there was a male DNA, had they brought the witnesses that, for example, the one who took her on his back at the JFK, at the hospital, and things, if the government had produced all of these witnesses and if they had established how men actually came in contact with her, then that part of the thing would be broken apart. It wouldn't be part of it. There would be no doubt on that, because indeed, these nurses, these male doctors, the other people help all. But the whole thing is that, as it is said, that the matter was made so political that even if the 4 people who were in there were responsible for killing her, you cannot establish it, because so many things happen along the way.
Dennis, let me come in. First of all, Like I said, I agree with Anthony Freeman on the point about the circumstantial evidence that you have to erase every other theory, and that's my point. Those theory, the two theories were not addressed sufficiently. That's the first thing. On Council the J-Way's point, I agree with you on the last point he just made about the exclusion of DNAs. So when you find another DNA, am I clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you find a different DNA or male DNA, because the other DNA, they don't know who DNA they saw. They just said women DNA because I think Councilor Sky and the rest of the other people did not submit, did not agree for that DNA to be withdrawn, for that blood to be withdrawn for DNA test. And that's something LMP had the ability to get a search warrant for, to be able to compare the DNA, but they didn't do that. They had the ability to get a search warrant, again, we're speaking of search warrant, to get a DNA test done for them to withdraw, collect DNA samples from Councilor Scott and the three other defendants to be able to compare it to the female DNA that was on the body. That's the first thing. What LMP could have done was that all the people that came in contact with that body, they could have collected DNA evidence for them to exclude them or to be able to say who the DNA belongs to. Outside of that, I have to disagree with Councilor Jay on so many points he made. And please give me a chance, let me explain. I did go to the transcript, the trial transcript. Number one, when it comes to the incident that happened at Councilor Scott's house with the breaking on February 8th and 9th, those incidents were not reported until days later, she reported it. Also, when it comes to the car was not, the reason why LMP said it did not do report now, this is not something we would do because even if the vehicle is not present, we're still going to take report. Councilor Scott told them that the vehicle was at some other area being repair work was being done on it. That's another thing. Now let's come to Musa Dean's statement, Councilor Musa Dean's statement at the time after the incident. He said there were intruders. When you watch it, when you read the trial transcript, Councilor Scott had a repair work done on her house the day before. So that day, the day before the murder, there was a repair work done on the house. Beaver Company sent one Mr. Francis Tamba. Mr. Francis Tamba went to the house to do a repair work at Councilor Scott's house with his children. Mr. Francis Tamba's children were there with him to do the repair work. Guess what? Councilor Scott put her nephew, Gossin Colley. Her nephew was the one that was supervising Mr. Tamba and his children. And after that, they left. Mr. Tamba and his children left the house because the Gossin was on there. They left the house after the work. So the issue of somebody staying in the house is being debunked. Let's come to the phone number, the calls. The GSM company testify in the court. Tell what's that name? Orange testify that Jefferson Koji, the number that it said Jefferson Koji used to call, according to Eric, the GSM company, that number did not place any call for I think for 50, almost 2 weeks within the crime time. There was no call placed for that number. When it comes to Valley Teller, they say Valley telephone number called the security guard. No, it did not. What happened was the GSM company said the reason why there's a number that appear on Valley telephone record and the same as the security guard is because the GSM company, when you make a call and you don't have enough funds, the calls will be routed to a number that will tell you that you will have insufficient funds. So that's the number that appear on both of them phone record to tell them they have insufficient funds. They both did not call the same number. It was an automatic number that it went to. This is according to the trial transcript. This is not me making it up. The automatic number was there. I had the number written down. It's some 00001.
So what's the point? Because you have time limitation.
No, my point here is there is no evidence connecting Jefferson Koji and Valley Teller to that scene. As claimed
that's established.
No, but the counselor is implying, not you now, Freeman. The counselor is implying that because Valley Teller put a hand on the table and they put a hand back, that means something was wrong with it. No.
So actually now, so it leaves the question: who killed Shalom Musu?
Well, that's part of the reason why when you have a murder case, you don't follow public opinion and rush to indict.
True.
Or to try people when you have not organized your evidence. And that's why I always stress the fact that our police are too highly politically inclined.
Thank you.
So you have to wait if you haven't got your evidence in order. When you rushing to go to court?
There is no statute of limitation, brother.
Yes. So what's the point? If it take 1 year, 2 years, gather evidence so that when you go to court, people don't tell you that, okay, no, you have not crossed the threshold of reasonable doubt. Because now you can see, even if you're not a lawyer, But you can see that there are other theories explaining that it's also possible that somebody else could have committed a crime other than the people in that house. Okay? So in the face of that theory, you cannot convict. That's why I personally, after listening to the trial, I was shocked at the verdict because as far as I'm concerned, there was significant reasonable doubts, and I couldn't see how these guys could have convicted, but I knew definitely that when it gets to the Supreme Court, there will have been a problem because those issues about reasonable doubt will resurface. And this time around, there will be no jury, to stop that analysis from going on. So police officers gotta be professional. It's not because the public is shouting, we want justice, so you just grab the first available person who looks guilty and present them, so that there can be justice. No, take your time, do the evidence. If you are going by way of circumstantial, then you have to find evidence to eliminate all other possible theory of the case. And if you fail to do that, reasonable doubt will remain in the case and you will not be able to get a conviction.
I think the Solicitor General and the Minister of Justice got some work to be done here. Because look, if you watch the arm, they said there were arms brought into Monrovia. The police people put glove on one. I saw many police people who are handling the gun. One hand had glove, the other hand no glove on it, and they were showing the gun all around. And even to the point that some of the journalists wanted to hold the gun when they were trying to show this type of gun. This is how the gun can shoot. This is how it can kill people. And you wonder, you say, oh, all these police people, what are they doing here?
Oh, God.
And besides being political, they are very incompetent. They go through the training, but when they get back in fact, it is how much money you have. You can run through the police station on how much money you have, because the police from maybe from 100 down, if you have money, you'll be able to pass through the whole system. Because they don't do anything professional at all. And there is nothing that happens as a result of that. Nobody gets to be prosecuted. Can you do that here?
And that's the problem.
Can you do that here as a policeman? No,
you cannot. You cannot. You mess up your case, you will be investigated by our internal affairs. You mess up your case, you will be investigated. The ASA will get on you. As a matter of fact, when the ASA send your DTP letter to when they put a DTP decline to prosecute letter in your case folder, as an investigator, as a detective, your supervisor said, "But why was it declined to prosecute?" They will look at how you got your evidence, and they will go from there. Let's be on. There is this tendency for people to say, "Oh, Liberia is not America. Don't think about Liberia, America." One thing I've learned in my 2 years as a detective before making sergeant, all the sophistication we have, where you get your most evidence is the human interaction, the human intelligence. Even in the intelligent world, I'm not trying to pull my education. As a PhD student, one thing I did was my intelligence class. One of the key intelligence is human intelligence. You can get all the sophistication. Human intelligence, your ability to talk to people, bring people and gather information from people, is the best source of information. LMP has that in Liberia. You have people. You don't need all the sophistication to be able to do the job right. You don't need sophistication to be able to tell you that, hey, people should not come on your crime scene, or you should be able to take pictures of this scene before you collect this one. You don't need sophistication to tell you that you cannot get into a vehicle where 2 dead bodies are. You don't know who killed the person. You don't need sophistication for that. The notion that because Liberia is not America, so we cannot compare the two things, is dangerous. And it gives people the ability to be very, very lackadaisical in their work. And so, when I'm America and Liberia, you saw the Henry Costa video when they said they were searching Henry Costa car. You got cameramen right on the car, taking pictures of the car, testing a gun. That gun will be admissible in weak code. Liberia, just stop this thing here, man.
There are a lot of things that will be done in the country. Then you are muted.
Let me announce, if you want to join the call, if you want to join the conversation, please call the number that's on your screen. The number is our... let me put that on the screen very quickly. Don't tell me I can find the number. Yeah. The number is 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. We had a caller, but he hung up. Oh, something I forgot to ask, right? This whole search, let me go back to the search and seizure, right? With drugs. Drug is a crime, right? If you have drug, are
Yeah,
you guilty?
possession is a crime. Yeah.
The possession. So how come they are burning and searching these drugs, yet we don't see the people who have them?
Yeah, burning what?
They are
They're
burning drugs.
burning the drug.
Almost every day they are seizing drugs, but they are not seizing people.
Look, Dennis, the whole security sector in Liberia need actual reform. You know, people are very compromised, including up to lawyer level. There are lawyers. Look, the other thing I saw if I just move on the Gloria case, I saw that she had almost like 30 lawyers
34.
representing her. 34?
Yeah, 34.
Okay, so why were they doing that? I bet most of them wake up, they wake up from their houses, drink their tea, get in their car, and can't sit down in the courtroom. A lot of people are so compromised in Liberia that what you're talking about, it doesn't matter, and nothing happened in the process. No one gets to be prosecuted.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the chief just said, grab the cherry and the clerk or the assistant clerk, lock them up. Nobody will talk. Nobody in the system will talk. Because if you talk, the first thing that you're beating on, they will take away, they will suspend you. The Supreme Court will cite you, you get suspended. So suspend me now. Why can the country go forward? Look, we're talking about our in Monrovia when I left Monrovia when I used to take my in bucket. When I went back, every year I go back, I take back in the sea rubber bucket. and what did the government do, the current government do when some kind of band called SIB needed, they said they were going to close down? The government took some people say 8.5 million and gave it to the bank to remain afloat. And I was told my office around Broad Street, I was told that the whole of downtown, central part of downtown, they had water. So I sent one of my office staff to go to water and so from right on Front Street, from Broad Street to Front Street, like just walking distance. They met the woman who is the assistant director for marketing. The woman said, go tell Council there was no water coming to that place soon. So we don't prioritize anything. Liberia does not prioritize anything. It's about how people can share money, how people can get rich.
So the Gloria Musu case, that's the end. Where do we go next?
Well, I know Councilor Scott, I know she'll file an action on damages for wrong.
I don't think it will go anywhere.
You mean when she sued?
But where is it going to go? The state has a right when a crime is committed to investigate. So where is the wrong? There is no wrong. I mean, and the fact that she was jailed, well, she was Chief Justice, unfortunately, but I mean, she's a Liberian citizen. She's subject to the laws of Liberia. She should be happy she's out, and she should be happy because of what we call reasonable doubt.
Yep.
Not necessarily because she was conclusively proven to be innocent, no. But because the state didn't take time to accumulate the evidence, to present in court, and they created room for reasonable doubt. And so on that basis, she was acquitted. So I'm not saying she's guilty or anything, but I mean, she doesn't have the kind of overwhelming evidence because you have to show malice in the prosecution in order to recover in a civil action. You got to show that the state knew that the evidence was wrong, it was faulty, and yet they used it to prosecute you. I don't think that is the case here.
I know she was sued, and I know President Kwaka will settle in the matter.
Let me ask a question to you, lawyer.
Let me bring in two callers, and then we can continue.
Okay.
Let's first
they pay people off, so they will pay her off.
Let's hear from Mr. Flomo Livingston.
Flomo's always calling.
Flomo.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir. You're live.
Yeah, man, thank you for the show today. Thank you again. Anthony Freeman, don't worry. I mean, you're doing a good show. You're doing good, Anthony Freeman. He's speaking to the issue. I like that.
Okay.
Look, for me, I think the reason the government lost this case is during the CDC time, they just use that case for political means. Because Jefferson Kochi, we saw how Jefferson Kochi there, last time Molu was, I think, the chairman. They were calling the case of Boyo, Boyo, the shike of need for Boyo in Maryland County and stuff like that. So the whole thing is the sedition, they make the whole case as political.
I mean, what was the motive?
Look, we had Jefferson Kochi and Morba Molu was just political starting the whole case. Oh, she's guilty. She did that. And even one of the government prosecutor, they had a video of him with a CDC photo with CDC in 2017. I mean, not 2023. The runoff. How were you with that? The whole case is all compromised because he had CDC shut on with Jefferson Kochi and used on the same case prosecuting another person. So pretty much the whole case was not credible because
you say you can be CDC person and be lawyer.
As a man who's supporting the CDC in a runoff, you shouldn't be on that case to prosecute another person.
No, and, that's not true.
Like I think the sergeant said, and I think Atty. Freeman said, and Councilor Jewett. Hello?
Go ahead.
We hear you.
Yeah, and they said, I mean, the case, they didn't even prove beyond reasonable doubt. There's no murder weapon, and there's no other. I mean, like they had a male, DNA, so they didn't even do DNA to show which one the male fingerprint was there. You know, he didn't even do all that because, like I said, the only reason the CDC was doing that is to prove point because she was a lawyer for the current president at that time. So she was a lawyer for President
Flomo, if you bring that in, the counter argument will be she's now free because President Bouaka is in power. So let us leave
lawyers like that were appointed by Jowia. So
yeah.
I was like, what were you doing?
So let leave the politics out. I said let's leave the politics out. Talk about the search warrant. What do you make of it?
No, for me, the search warrant for me, Mr. Jack, we all know sometimes maybe it was not right, but that does not mean CDC or whosoever that was there. CDC compound is not excluded from people going in there. People need to know.
No, but the search warrant was not intended for CDC compound. So what they were doing there?
No. They did go in there. According to, I don't know what half pursuit or whatsoever. In half pursuit, Mr. Jah, the police can go in there. They don't need no search warrant. Even in America, when police running after someone and they run into your house, the police will not have to go to the court to go get a search warrant to come back.
No, Flomo, I've been talking to lawyers, right? The warrant was not for arrest; it was for search. So why somebody running away from there?
Well, for example, if the party, if you know that maybe the party know that they come in to search, they might find something there like drugs because they said that the DA that went there. So if they want to go search, we know that the DA went there to search for drugs. Maybe the person know they had the drugs and they have to run.
No, you can't run. If they secure the place, you can run from there. But anyway,
well, all depends on the amount of manpower you have. You know, Mr. John, LeBron is not like America where you get a street.
No, but why you don't have manpower? You know, in Refugee Council, they say if you're not going to toilet somewhere, don't go sit down there.
Well, that's true. But Mr. John, you know, the whole thing you can't compare this. For example, in LeBron, when they say in this, for example, when they say King of Village or Nukuta, you don't know because the street is not laid out. It doesn't have apartment number to say, the apartment is this one. Then you already know. Like for example, in America, you doing search warrant, they will say this street, this apartment.
Thank you. We know our houses.
The apartment, the house number and stuff like that. So they say in Nukuta, you don't even know which one is in Nukuta. So they make it a little bit harder for the FDA.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that one is hard for you, but let's leave it. Elvis, you are live.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Elvis.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jai, and hello to the panelists, and thank you for your time as well. Look, I will use a parable that you like to use. You know, CDC is a palm one tree that Unity Party keep trying to set the trap on them. You know, so the drunk United Party keep trying to say that they're traveling the CDC pound one tree. And that's the reason why CDC has to be smart. Because had it been, to the United Party advantage that they would have gone in there and God forbid for any drug, even though they would have been, they would have done it illegally, but politically they would have the advantage of it to say, oh, you see, CDC is a drug party, they're doing this, they're doing that, and that would have put a sting on the CDC politically. Even though maybe it would have been overturned in the courts because they didn't get the right warrant, they didn't have, approval to go in there, but just politically it would have been damaging to the CDC. And this is what United Party is trying to do. They're trying to destroy the CDC before 2029. And those of us outside looking in, we can see what they're trying to do, the tactics. And that's why I always, say to the CDC, use the court system. Use it, because you gain political sympathy when these people keep doing things the way they're doing it, and they're doing it the wrong way, and they're trying to, circumvent the law just to get some political point score against the CDC. By using the criminal justice system to try to indict them as being criminals, being drug dealers, trying to pin them red. And I think CDC has to be smart and use the legal system. When it comes to this Chief Justice, look, I'm not going to cry more than a bereaved. Somebody that died, if we don't want justice for that person, fine. No offense to the girl that died, but she's not my family member.
Yeah, man.
So I want justice, but when people sit on the platform and try to justify that the girl was killed, and therefore there was no evidence, there was no this, there was no that, so you can't acquit. So what is the call for the justice of that young girl that died? This Chief Justice is a adept lawyer. She knows the law, and the fact that there was no murder weapon, and like the sergeant said that there was no forced entry and nobody entered the house by the evidence that was presented. How does that murder weapon disappear? A justice who writes briefs, who knows the law in and out, who's supposed to be able to articulate what happened point by point, be able to write, in sequence, and she would say that she know what happened. She saw somebody, she looked the president dead in the eye and I pepper sprayed him. When in fact there was no evidence of that. So when people come in and say that the CDC were going after her because they hit her, that she was some kind of Joseph Boga lawyer, what point did she play in the election? So we're not going against CDC and Joseph Boga. That case was
that Flomo you're reacting to? The meeting.
Representing Unity Party against Liberty Party.
But Elvis, what you need to react to is what the councillors and the rest raised about reasonable doubt. The prosecution did not erase that. Forget
right,
about,
and that's why many people in the case in the beginning were saying that murder is too high of a bar to clear, especially on circumstantial evidence. But they could have charged him with what is the word, right? The people on the show, like they're conspiracy to murder or something like that.
Yeah, but when you bring in conspiracy, let me show you now that I talking to a lawyer. When you bring in conspiracy, you should show malice, right? Intent, right? Why are they going to conspire to kill their own daughter?
Right. So that's my point. That's what many people were saying, that they should have thrown a lesser charge, because one of the things, the elements of the crime, they couldn't need it for murder, because the murder weapon had disappeared. The Chief Justice wasn't talking. Right. There was no, a narration that was going to help her.
Right. No motive.
That's the point.
But thank you. I think the only thing they could charge with is the same thing I was charged with at F border in your keeper, FFI, failure to follow instruction. Other than that,
I wouldn't say the charge. But we're not calling for justice for Charlotte Musu. We have it at a more free one. Nobody else was in our
No. Don't talk like that, Evans. Let be reasonable. We want everybody want justice. The lawyers here said, and the police.
Want justice for again. Does she want justice?
She has repeatedly said that. She didn't
collaborate with it. Not collaborate, but she didn't cooperate with the government. All right. She was being resistant the whole time.
Yeah, thank you. Let me bring our last caller here. Is that Shedrick? Call out your name and where you calling from.
My name is Cedric.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so looking at where I see a lot of people trying to act like something strange happened today. I don't think it was strange. This is something that even at the point where Gloria Scott was in the prison, she was visited by this president to come. When he became president, he sent people there to go and visit her and what have you. So her lawyer, one of her lawyers, who is the Solicitor General, is right there. He was one of her lawyers, and he's the current Solicitor General. The people who handled the case, who were there before in the department for the prosecution, they took them off. They took all those, what his name, the Gould and the other rest of the guys, they took them off there. So the case was already in the hands of the people who wanted her to be set free from the initial stage. So I don't think anything strange happened today. Thank God, God knows why, but I think Liberia needs help.
Thank you.
So this
I mean, everybody want to go to conspiracy now. Nobody's talking about the facts of the case.
Then we remove Goo from that. So
What fact is he going to?
Okay, what fact do you need to convict somebody? Do you see?
Because there was an incident.
Yeah.
The only arm of government that we have that's supposed to do investigation and charge and send to court. They went through the process. Mm-hmm. The political part of it was played. They said,
no, let's leave the politics. What was the evidence presented to convict her?
At the end of the day.
Right. So if there's no evidence, how do you convict?
What gather?
Right. So how do you convict?
There is insufficient evidence. I think that's
the evidence is not sufficient. Yeah. Why will you convict for life?
That's the red word, insufficient.
Right.
So there was evidence, but according to what the court wanted, according to what the court actually wanted to see, they didn't see it, but there were evidences.
No, but that's the law, right?
I don't know if I can come in, Joe, while the guy is talking.
Yeah.
There is one fundamental principle of law. The court prefers to set a guilty person free than to allow an innocent person to suffer injustice. All the time, the court looks at that. Forget about law, constitution, anything. Overall, the court would rather let the guilty person go free than to allow an innocent person to suffer injustice. So if the court cannot convincingly conclude that this person committed this crime, they will set that person free because they don't want to punish an innocent person. That is the underlying principle on the entire criminal justice system.
Okay.
Thank you, Shedrick.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Those are all the colors we have tonight. And you already started saying, so any response for our colors or Sergeant?
I understand people's need to be very critical of situations, but I try my best to vert away from the issue of conspiracy theory. I like to operate based on facts and evidence, not based on conspiracy theory. And we have to be very careful. Now, something I wanted to say earlier, because when I was on OK FM earlier today, people started saying, oh, the Supreme Court messed up. And then I said, no, the Supreme Court did not mess up. From the low except from the decision I've read, the Supreme Court made a decision based on the law. And that's something I saw coming. Based on my experience as a criminal justice professional, I said, there's no way the Supreme Court is going to uphold this conviction because of the level of mess up the people did with the evidence. So the Supreme Court acted based on what they saw in the law. They didn't act based on any sort of political lineage. Now, if there was some sort of political connection because of the Councilor Scott and their colleague, their former colleague, and all that, that's fine. But I don't think the decision was based on anything but the law, and they had enough legal basis to make that to overturn that decision. So let's be very careful. We have to trust the institution. One day the Supreme Court is not good, the next day the Supreme Court is good. Now today people are praising the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court made a decision in their favor. The last time when the Supreme Court made another decision, people started chastising the Supreme Court, said they're not good because the political and all that. We have to respect the decision of the court, even if we don't agree with it. And that's something we have to respect the institutions that we have entrusted to guide us as Nigerians. So that's something I wanted. That's something I wanted to say.
Thank you. Councillor Joel.
You know, it, this case was pretty easy for the Supreme Court to work with because you had so much the, the facts were so disjointed. The prosecution failing on many instances. When they were to even bring in rebuttal witnesses, they did not do it. Take the doctor, I think that Gloria Scott and Council Scott brought into the country. That doctor examined, I think there were two, he and his wife. They conducted examination and raised doubt. The government did nothing about it. And I was not surprised because you have people like Councilor Yanati Tuan as one of the prosecutors. Councilor Yanati Tuan doesn't prosecute case. So if you want to know guys who are leading the prosecution, I don't know what Roosevelt, what his name, I think it's a former pressman who is Councilor. He was one of those who were on the case, but the way they handled the case, it was like when the election comes, George, we will win. And nothing will be asked about this case. That's how they handled the case. They didn't do it as lawyers, as if to say that their matter can travel to the Supreme Court. And if it travels to the Supreme Court,
What was their motive to want to convict her with little or with so much little evidence and sloppy job? I mean, why?
You know,
that's the
may be a political answer. But I heard that Councillor Scott, prior to this happening at her house, she had gone to London and she participated in a case where she was an expert witness on the Liberian legal system. There's a case, Lone Star versus Orange. And Orange is alleged to, Mr. Weir is alleged to have share in Orange. And that case ended up in London with Orange losing. It was Ure, Mr. Ure Benedict Ure, through his Lone Star connection and whatnot, had her to have gone to London and testify. Whether that was one reason why they were running after her or not, nobody knows. But at the end of the day, I just think the prosecution were pretty weak. They did it. I said, look at Councilor Tuan who go to the place 9:30 in the night without fear that you could be held in contempt. If you have a very rough judge, will sentence you, will send you to jail for 15 to 30 days for doing what he did. But what did they do? I think they fined him $200. The matter went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, "Oh, he can come back on the case." And they fined. They didn't even go into making sure that all of the theories that could have raised in doubt were knocked down. They left it the best way they could, and the Supreme Court just had to feed it. You know, can somebody say the Supreme Court will rule the way it ruled? It would be in favor of Gloria Scott because they were former colleagues? No. Even if they were former colleagues, the thing was so badly presented that at the end of the day, the doubt was all over the place. And that the prosecution could not even do anything about it now. So the Supreme Court just basically ruled the way it ruled. The question is Shalom Musu having justice today? Right. The answer is no. Because nobody knows who killed her. Nobody has been arrested. And perhaps nobody may be arrested.
And it all started with the testimony or what Councillor Verdier said. So it's like Jefferson Koji and the government trying to sit with them there now by bringing in the family to say you did it. So they too want to prove that they're innocent. And so Shalom Musu, the victim, is the actual victim here. We may never find who killed her.
If I may,
that's the
let Freeman,
I'm sorry.
That's the point. For me, we don't need a police acting on political instructions or political bias, because justice should be blind. So a police should be professional to be able to go to court only when they have good enough evidence that they believe can convict. And especially if you don't have direct evidence, then you must anticipate what alternative theories there could be and try to debunk those alternative theories. If you don't do that, the issue of reasonable doubt is very strong in criminal cases. And in the case of murder, is the strongest that you can possibly think about. You really have to erase reasonable doubt. If you leave reasonable doubt in the case, that defendant, whether at the lower level or at the Supreme Court level, they're going to be allowed to walk free. And like I said, the fundamental principle of justice, especially in criminal law, is that the court would rather set the guilty free than to allow an innocent person to suffer injustice. So if they can establish who did it, they will say, okay, you people, y'all can go because we really, there is doubt in the case. We don't know who did it. So you people can go. You are free. Y'all can go. So that is the logic. So when you have to have professionalism in our police, and the way the police is structured, the way they work, the way they do their things, there's no professionalism because there is too much politics. And that has to end.
You know,
Thank you.
the police
Thank you.
directors.
I want us to conclude now.
Yeah.
So we'll go around the room for your closing. Thank you very much for taking up the time to come and explain this. Sergeant Johnson.
Well, it's before even you getting me?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. I don't know, for some reason I'm frozen on the screen. Before I would just like to make a point when it comes to Jefferson Koji and Valley Teller. We have to understand that the introduction of Jefferson Koji and Valley Teller was done by Councilor Jerome Frederick, who presented absolutely zero evidence to support his claim. And I'm surprised up to now Jefferson Koji and Valley Teller has not sued him yet civilly. I'm very surprised at that. You know, that's one thing. And I will agree with Anthony Freeman when it comes to the LMP. I've always said, I made a post when the thing happened, everybody got on me. I said, when the police or law enforcement security sector see themselves as an extension of a political institution, everything you do will be guided by politics and not by the law or evidence. And that's what happens to LMP. LMP has always seen herself as an extension of political institutions, like, oh, we have to satisfy the government in power. That's why LMP today has not investigated the alleged murder of that kid from CDC by what they call her Princess Johnson or whoever who's at the port. That's why LMP refused to investigate the incident that happened at CDC headquarters involving the 1 or 2 who allegedly got assaulted in CDC headquarters, because LMP wants to satisfy the power that be, and you cannot run a law enforcement body like that. You cannot. If you do that, your credibility is lost. And that's exactly why the people don't believe LMP has the ability to enforce the law fairly and efficiently. That's the problem. But with that said, I don't want to take the time. I really appreciate the time, Dennis, and I'm sorry I can't be making regular appearance on it because, you know, the hustle not easy in the country, but from time to time, I will do my best.
Thank you. Anthony Freeman.
Okay, so we're grateful that the Supreme Court has come in to render justice. And at the Supreme Court level, there is no way they can satisfy everybody. Anyway, the Supreme Court rules, one half of the people will be dissatisfied. But I'm satisfied that the Supreme Court went by long established precedent in law, and that it was nothing arbitrary, but if the judicial process that should have been followed was not followed at a lower level, it is the right of the Supreme Court to correct it. True. And that is what they did in the Gloria Scott case. It doesn't say that who particularly killed the girl, they can still investigate, but until they investigate and find that out, there is no need of punishing people whose guilt has not been established beyond a reasonable doubt. So I will just leave it on that level. Thank you very much. It was always a nice show coming and helping our people understand some of these intricate legal issues. And we'll always do our bit when we can.
Thank you so much. And that's why at Focus on Liberia, we try to do our best to educate, to elevate, and promote all things like this. We tell Liberians, forget the tabloid. It's time for it. It's time for entertainment. If you want good stuff, tune in to Focus on Liberia. Councillor Joel.
You know, the this entire case had doubts all over the place. So much so that anybody would not have thought that the Supreme Court would rule otherwise. And because the doubts were so prevalent, so visible, that the court today set Councillor Scott and her relatives free. But I will call in this public manner, call on the Minister of Justice to ensure that he can institute some sort of committee to investigate what really went on and who murdered Shallow Musu, who killed her, who are those involved. Mind you, this is murder. So there is no statute of limitation. The investigation can continue. And what you call it, double jeopardy would not hold because unless you bring back Gloria Scott and others. But if you arrest other people from out there with clear investigation, we will get an answer in this. And I hope that the Waka regime will institute some reform because everybody is not only LMP issue talking about, every sector of the government will want to go to the president's house in the morning before they can even go to their offices. If you don't do that, you are not sure of maintaining your deputy minister position, whether that's true or not. But everybody else will want to go to kiss the ring in the morning before they can go to their offices. There is no merit. I mean, people can be one of the associate justices currently on the Supreme Court. I like to pick on them. When he went for a hearing, the justice said that I want to thank President Dr. Weah for appointing me as associate justice. And I know the guy, I said, but wait, this guy isn't a good lawyer? And you could thank President Weah for nominating you, but why you want to make it political? President Dr. Weah for appointing you. I thank President Weah and his government for nominating me to the position of associate justice. Why make it political? So everybody, that's why I have our country the way it is. Everybody will answer to the president, and nobody should take it for a joke. The president in Liberia drives the entire country, including
Councillor Joe. That condition make crayfish to burn. Crayfish used to be still all of that.
So I don't know at what point, but again, it's a sad thing. Those or the president who may have murdered Shallow Musu will be still out there. Can the Minister of Justice actually investigate? Are there people who might know what happened? Can they give tips? So this matter that does not close down with Gloria Scott and being released.
Well, if Freddie there, maybe Freddie will help.
Is he there now or is he in this case?
No, I mean, if he had the evidence he said he wanted to give,
exactly.
It's still possible he can give the evidence.
Do we expect more search warrants?
I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean that still just speaks to the same thing we are saying. The unprofessionalism. We have to professionalize the institutions of state. And until we can find a way to professionalize it, we'll keep having. That's why I said we're not growing, because if a problem confronts you in 1970, the same problem confronts you in 1980, 2000, 2024, where is the growth? You know you are growing when your problems are changing. But if your problem is the same problem back and forth, then you're not growing. So we have to solve the problem of, especially the police, law enforcement, prosecution. We got to solve that part of the problem. And we can't continue to have these people just take political instructions, and in the process of taking political instruction, they don't even care again about legal procedures. You see the kind of implication it has now when you go to court.
Thank you. On that note, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank our viewers, those watching, and those who will even watch later. Until then, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians," and we pray that the murderers of Shallow Musu be brought to justice. Have a good night, and God bless you.
Good night.
We are Liberians.